Okay, so I've been going a bit too hard on the Triva Tide Control deck with the Sunscape Familiar shell, and decided to come back to sort of like a more of a net deck. Although this thing isn't insanely established, it's been getting some play and some good results. Basically, there's the traditional white-blue Replenish deck that uses discard outlets and intuition to get things into the graveyard, as well as sort of Seal of Cleansing its own Parallax Tide and Parallax Waves. But this deck relies, instead of on the discard of the regular white-blue Replenish, it relies on Oath to fill the graveyard. So, Oath of Druids, this deck doesn't play creatures other than two Terravores. It's sort of like a dirty little secret. A lot of people expect me to have four Terravores, but it uses Oath of Druids. I mill many more than your usual Oath trigger because I only have two creatures. More than your usual Terra Oath triggers. But yeah, I mill a bunch of cards, and usually there's some good. I mean, basically always there's some good. There are some good enchantments in there. Four replenishes. Also, so yeah, the replenishes bring back everything from the yard and all the enchantments, and it usually results in a win. If I can resolve or replenish for a few enchantments, that's usually a win. Four Enlightened Tutor, I love that. Obviously, it's card disadvantage, but there's various other ways to make up for that with the replenish and oaths and sylvan libraries. But enlightened tutoring for a sylvan library that I can cast on turn two is great, or for an oath of druids that I can cast on turn two. The mana is pretty sound. The land base in this deck is pretty sound. Two Mox Diamonds, which is sort of a strange number, but I think just slots are too tight. The deck that did well in, I want to say, the first Premodern challenge on MTGO earlier this year, played a third Mox Diamond in the sideboard for faster matchups, which makes a lot of sense. I'm playing more targeted type stuff, but there's no right and wrong in that regard. Mox Diamond might be the thing to include. Um, but yeah, the land base is pretty solid. Plenty of basics. They're all tied together by allied fetch lands in terms of Flooded Strand and Windswept Heath. Sometimes getting to double green, double white, or double blue can be a little bit of an issue, but not a huge issue. Usually by the time you have four mana sources, one of them is going to be a Mox Diamond or one of the Pain lands, whether it's the four coasts, three brushlands, or one Edakar Wastes. You'll usually get there. Um, Interesting little thing. This is sort of like a legendary interaction. Opalescence and Humility. Uh, Basically everything. So yeah, if I'm turning all my enchantments into creatures with Opalescence, Humility comes along and removes all of their abilities. That is just a thing that's going to happen in layer 6. However, Opalescence and Humility both affect power and toughness in layer 7, and they're both in the same sub layer of layer 7, so I think it's 7A. They're both going to affect the same exact layer, so it becomes a timestamp issue. So if Opalescence came into play after Humility, I'm going to have a bunch of enchantments that are larger than 1/1s. They're going to be 2/2s. They're going to be 3/3s in the case of Attunement and Aura of Silence. And they're going to be 4/4s in the case of the Parallax Tides. And even Humility would be a 4/4. However, if Humility came into play later, then they'd all be 1/1s. So this gets a little tricky with Replenish. If you have an Opalescence and a Humility and some other enchantments in the yard, and you replenish, they come in with the same timestamp. You actually get to choose as the controller of the objects. If things were to enter at the same time, you get to order. You get to sort of create timestamps for each one of them. You get to choose the order in which the timestamps are. That's just in the rules. So humility isn't as much of a non-bow as it seems. Occasionally it can be an issue. It still can be a little bit painful that it removes the abilities of everything. So, for example, it removes the ability of Seal of Cleansing to work with the Parallax cards. Um, yeah, so there's definitely some concerns. I thought we're at 61 cards. I've thought about moving Humility to the side. It's hard to say. I usually end up with a bunch of, even if they're 1/1s, I usually end up with a bunch of 1/1s, and my opponent might have two 1/1s. or whatever it is. And even in those situations, I feel favorites. A replenish into a bunch of enchantments, and then if humility has a later timestamp, because let's say I already had opalescence in play, I might have a handful of 1/1s. My opponent is left with their 2/1s. It's still favorable situation, not necessarily. One Croson Reclamation. Because there are only two Terravores, I often mill very close to the end of my library, to the bottom. So I might mill myself out here and there, or just get dangerously close. Or that could be a good thing. I might want to mill myself out. Like, let's say I've already seen both Terravores. One was in my opening hand, one was milled and then swords, and then I want to trigger Oath again. That's okay. I can trigger Oath, and then before the draw step, cast Croson Reclamation, and I could put 2 replenishes from my graveyard back into the library. The thing I like about this deck is, although the white-blue classic replenish deck doesn't fully rely on its graveyard, I feel like that would be sort of like a misjudgment upon that deck, because it can for sure operate just casting enchantments from the hand. Um, it definitely still has a hefty amount of reliability on the graveyard, and this deck, in some ways, it leans harder on the graveyard because it's got Terravores, which care about the graveyard, but in some ways it leans less. So it's like I don't need to cast a replenish to win. I could cast a Terravore or mill into a Terravore, and then let's say I get my graveyard Oathed, or sorry, Tormod's Cryptid. I might still have a 3/3 because my opponent's fetched, and maybe there's been a wasteland somewhere on either side. I have one. Um, so I don't know. There's ways to. I feel like this deck is a little more multifaceted than the classic replenish deck. Obviously has some weaknesses, but I think it's a little better against the red decks. I think hard to say. Humility helps. Um, it's definitely trickier. So there are some advantages, and being able to splash green. I feel like we get grindier. Hard to say exactly. I'm not super experienced with the white blue classic replenish, but let's see how it goes in a match against a mystery opponent. Okay, Eindhoven. I don't believe I've played them before. No, I have not played them. This hand looks great. Yeah, we have all the colors, although the one of the lands is going to be the white is going to be from Adakar Waste, which is wastelandable, but all good. This is definitely a keep. Just making a quick note of my opponent. Okay, keep. Mishra's Factory. Huh. Curse Scroll Mishra's Factory. Could be some sort of artifact prison style deck. Makes me not want to play this out. Start on fetch land. I could see them having wastelands and ports. The 2 Sabo's webs will be awesome. Sideboard. Maybe they're like mono black control or something. Do I want to swords this? And then Seal of Cleansing? I do kind of like that. It cuts me off of that, but I don't care. Alright, now they're tapped. Cuts me off of Sylvan Library for now, which was gonna be a good turn 2 play, but I still have a turn 2 play. Yeah. Alright. I'm not going to use Curse Seal of Cleansing on Curse Scroll yet. I want to wait for something better. Maybe another man land or whatever. Yeah, another Mishra's Factor would be awesome. Something tells me they won't be animating it anytime soon. And if they don't, then I'm going to be Parallax tiding them. And I'll use my Seal of Cleansing then. Okay, they are doing it, but I'm in no rush. I'm going to save this because I'm about to give them a little blowout. The rack. I get punished for having X is 3 minus the number of cards in their hand. So I get punished for having few cards. Okay? It is what it is. Should I Seal of Cleansing this and then my Tide can just do a temporary exile of their lands? I don't mind that. Because I'm going to be replenishing soon. Okay, definitely wishing I had some green mana now. I got a plains instead of an island with that Blooded Strand because I typically use double white way more often than double blue, even though in this case I'm using double blue. Okay, Wasteland, good. I think that I will find one in the coming turns. Time enough to cast Replenish, I hope. Okay, we did find one. Sure. Play out. Parallax Wave. Still, I'm gonna just let this Parallax Tide run its course before I replenish. Green! Love it. Sylvan Library. Their third Mishra's Factory. So Tide dies, they get 2 lands back. Probably gonna replenish, and then I'll use Parallax and Seal to hit all their lands. I had used Seal before on just one of their lands because I knew Parallax Tide was just gonna buy time over a series of turns, and I was going to later go into replenish. So yeah, I didn't feel like doing the Seal Tide thing right then. I wanted more time with Tide just sitting in play. Okay, don't need another Oath. Do I want to play Oath this turn? I'm wondering if they don't really play creatures, so I'm not gonna rush. Let's just do simple replenish. Now I will do the Tide combo on them. I do have to worry about the rack a little bit. At 3 cards, I'm still safe. Should I flicker my own lands? Sure. Even though it kind of burns my clock. Okay, now I'm going to hold priority. And perma-exile their lands. Kill Tide, my 2 lands come back, their 3 will not. Okay, discard a card and discard Oath. So the rack is gonna get me for 1 next upkeep. Uh-oh. Swamp? Dark Ritual. Ooh. I'm not out of the woods. Now the rack's gonna hit me. Scourge is sometimes a problem. Opponents just ask the word Terravore with a question mark. How on earth are you casting that? Well, you see the oath in my AI. I'll say it less snarkily. It's usually, yeah, there's a Windswept Heath and a Brushland in play, so it's not too much of a mystery how I get the oath into play. For example, right here, I'm gonna go get a forest. But now the rack, it's gonna do some work on me. I don't know how big this Terravore is. I'm gonna use Wave to not let Scourge hit me. Okay, we've got them on a 3.14 turn clock. So I'm gonna need 1 more land to hit the yard somehow. Or for them to take 1 more damage somehow. They're recovering from being tided pretty easily. I can't afford to take any damage from that. I'd like to let it sit and play their whole turn so that they wouldn't be able to cast a creature, but yeah, the rack might get me. I need to replenish, a seal, or an aura of silence. Okay. Okay, seal. Found it. And the cursed totem's about to start putting in work. They might get me. Another Scourge. I do have a swords on top, but they're about to get this other Parallax. This other Scourge back as well. Right now, with my wave dying. Not feeling too good. Going to 3. Fortunately, they're not finding. Oh, they are finding a land drop. So they can activate Cursed Totem and I'm dead. Yeah, I'm just dead. They can do it back to back. Oh, I can, yeah, I can't get both of these. I can't deal with both Cursed Scroll activating twice, and I can't deal with the creature. Good Game. Okay, Sabo's Web should be amazing here. Light of Day, love that card. More answers to creatures. Yeah, those four. They are kind of aggressive, so I like the idea of keeping Mox Diamond in. I might trim a library. Humility's not great because their Mishra's Factory ends up being a 2/2 when it's activated. Not that that's the end all be all, but yeah. We don't need the third Parallax Wave. Nah, Light of Day is going to be good. Light of Day and Sabo's Web are going to stop all of their threats. I play against enough aggressive black decks, both in paper and online, that I think Light of Day is a great card. Keep Mox Diamond doesn't help with attunement, but whatever. Down to go fast. Mox Diamond gives me my second color for all spells. So I don't need the Pain Land, because my fetches are going to give me one of each color anyway. It's going to suck. So is... Okay. Land Void also sucks, but I do have the answer on board. Thank goodness. Another land. Crack, kill Void before cracking this fetch land for Terravore reasons. Does Planar Void see itself? I thought Planar Void sees itself. At least that's what I was told. In my mind, it doesn't, but I thought it would. Nice. Blank to the duress. I love that. They mulliganed and then whiffed on duress. Let's do attunement. I don't see them playing a creature anytime soon. I could keep that up just in case. I'm going to discard my 5th Monosaurus, one of the swords, Oath. What would I even get with Enlightened Tutor? Light of Day and Sabo's Web. Let's rely on that instead of swords. And Enlightened Tutor is a fun way to play around duress too. So if I get duressed here, or Funeral Charm, was that the one that where I got to choose what I discard? I can respond with Enlightened Tutor. Yeah, so I want to get Light of Day. Fun too. Who plays that card? And what can Mono Black do about a white enchantment? Gloom? It's too late for Gloom. That's awesome. Can they do anything about artifacts? Isn't there a card from Mirage that kills artifacts? Oh, they could play the Rack. That's their other win con right now. Huh. Play it out because it's just going to get discarded to the Rack. To a Bottomless Pit. So this is official Pit Rack. I've so rarely played against this deck. I should have foreseen this. I don't have a Seal of Cleansing in the yard. The only enchantment is an Oath of Druids, which would be nice right now. Multiple Bottomless Pits. What I could have done with that Windswept Heath, actually, which was fairly obvious, I just didn't think of it, was Attunement. Yeah, I could have used Attunement. I don't know. Yeah, so Enlightened Tutor right now won't work because Attunement... I mean, maybe I'll use it in the end step, but it won't work with Attunement right now. Scroll would work pretty well for them. Okay, what do I grab here? Oath? And then I go get a big old Terravore? I see removal. But I'll get 2 stabs at it. Maybe just Oath. Sure. For some reason, we're getting a lot of lag right now. I gotta remember to fetch before the Oath trigger next turn. Because I don't want to mill my actual targets. But yeah, Oath is gonna exhaust their options. Exhaust their removal. Sorry. Yeah, I'm fortunate that they haven't found a Rack yet. Light of Day not allowing this to block is also nice because then they won't get an Oath trigger. Okay, how big is this Terravore gonna be? I got a dodge Edict and Innocent Blood, even worse. Because then I would, if they Innocent Blood, then I wouldn't get a Oath trigger on the follow turn. 11/11's nice. Ooh, 11/11 is nice. I don't care. Whatever they want to find. off of there. Oh, so they're gonna get an oath trigger, but I don't care what it is. It's not gonna be good enough. It can't block unless it's an artifact creature, and it'll hopefully grow my Terravores. So my two oaths in the deck were back to back in the library. One was found off of oath. Sorry, my two Terravores, they were back to back. One was found off oath, and then I natty drew the next. Okay. Light of day, so good. Do I have anything else to deal with artifacts? No. Okay. Yeah. They don't use their graveyard. I just need to get a quick Aura of Silence. Light of day. That's nice. A lot of things to get to rest, but Enlightened Tutor provides some redundancy. Replenish hasn't come up yet. Scourge. Okay. Nice. Light of day will be good if I can get it in play first. Let's just buy time with swords. Because right now I have two things I want to play next turn, so they can't duress me off of it. Unless they double duress. Wasteland's annoying. Yeah, definitely hoping I can resolve a Sylvan Library next turn. Awesome, no duress. Fetch land goes well with Sylvan Library. So I could get a Sabo's Web potentially next turn, or a Seal of Cleansing for that. Although I'm not going to have the mana to do all that. To both play Enlightened Tutor and cast a 2-drop. Target player discards a card. Okay. Maybe I actually do Light of Day. They probably have some main deck graveyard hate, but I'm going to do Oath, because I don't have a creature in play at the moment. And my green source is about to get wasted, I'm assuming. The art for Light of Day is awesome. Ooh! Bottomless Pit. Yikes. That is gonna wreck me. Okay. With Sylvan Library on the stack, I can discard to get Sabo's Web. Ooh. Or do I want to get the answer to this? Hey. Bottomless Pit. I'm thinking Sabo's Web so that they don't get to untap this Wasteland. Yikes. I could see what my first draw is off of Sylvan Library, but I don't even know if I want to risk that. I need a lot of cards. I'm going to take all the cards. Noise out there. I'm going to take all the cards off Sylvan Library to protect this Replenish. Do I want to tutor before I draw it all is the question. Yes. Sabo's Web is nice because it'll even go get me another card to sort of provide insulation. So hopefully the Replenish doesn't get taken with the random draw. The random discard. Okay. Definitely need a land soon. Okay. So, 1 in 4 chance of getting the Replenish taken, and a 1 in 4 chance also of the land to cast the Replenish getting taken. Super redundant with these oaths. So if I can get a Replenish out, I'll get an oath trigger. Okay. We live. Honestly, Mox Diamond should probably come out against such a, discard heavy deck. Should I be taking more? Yeah. So that the rack hits me less? Or do I want to hide what I want on top? So this one I want for sure. This one is maybe a next turn problem. So let's hide this. No, I don't think it's going to be worth it. Because I'm paying 4 life and then the next turn I'm killing the rack anyway. Okay, nice. Yeah, I didn't want to put Seal of Cleansing in my hand knowing I wasn't going to cast it that turn. And next turn I can cast it, get rid of the rack. Although it's getting milled because I'm going to get an Oath trigger. Opponent is saying GG's. Okay, good games.